Hello everyone, this is Brian Kibler here with StarCityGames.com, and this week we're going to be playing some Standard. And the deck that I'm going to be playing today is actually a deck that I sort of experimented or wanted to experiment more with during my testing for the Pro Tour at Dragon's Dark here. And this is actually a deck that I nearly sort of switched to at the last minute, actually with very little testing because I sort of liked the way it seemed like it was theoretically positioned, and I actually think that the way that the sort of metagame has evolved, it actually may be even better than it was at the Pro Tour. So the idea here is very similar to the sort of green-white deck that I actually ended up playing at the Pro Tour, which is that I want to have the tools to abuse the Den Protector Death Mist Raptor combo in an aggressive shell. And whereas in the green-white deck, I played quite a few cards like Dramoka's Command and Wingmate Rock, and these sort of utility things here in black-green. You end up with sort of more straightforward disruptive elements like Thoughtseize, then the more universal Hero's Downfall. So I think that this deck actually has a lot of tools that are very good against how the metagame has shaped up. You know, with Esper Dragons and decks like that. It also sort of shores up a number of holes that the green-white deck had, one of which was its sort of vulnerability to Elspeth. That was a card that I actually struggled with quite a bit playing the green-white deck, which was a big part of the reason that I had Wingmate Rock, which is ultimately pretty weak in some of the matchups. But here, with both Hero's Downfall and Herald of Torment, you have quite a few ways to deal with Elspeth that you know, it ends up not being nearly as big of an issue. A big thing that I do like about this deck, too, is it uses Den Protector a lot better, I feel like, particularly against control decks. Against control, having Den Protector plus Thoughtseize is incredibly powerful. You can actually just like rip their hand apart and bring Den Protector back. Take some more cards, and then or rather bring it back with Den Protector, and then at the same time you're getting potentially value out of your Death Mist Raptors, and you're able to put a pretty significant clock on your opponent too. Rakshasa Death Dealer, I always pronounce this. I say Rakshasa, but it's actually Rakshasa. Whatever it is, Death Dealer. It's a really powerful card that gives you a way to use mana in the late game. The green-white sort of morph version of the deck that I played had Fleece Mainline in that spot to be able to give you sort of the tool later in the game to get a little more power and protection from removal. Whereas Death Dealer just can kill people. It's one of the great things about this card is that like when you actually have a significant amount of mana, you can use it to either bestow Boon Satyr, bestow Herald of Torment, pump up Warden, or just give Death Dealer like +8/+8, and that's able to close out a lot of games pretty quickly. You have a lot of the same tools. You have Surrak here, who hits really hard. This is actually, I think, one of the things that has led me to try a bunch of different sort of base green aggressive decks. And previously you had stuff like Polukranos or Reaper of the Wilds as really your only 4-drop options. But now with Surrak, you can very easily close out games very quickly by just crunching people with Surrak. Sideboard-wise, this deck has a lot of powerful tools too. Like I said about Den Protector, it goes very well with cheap spells like Thoughtseize, and it also goes extremely well with a lot of the cheap situational sideboard cards you're able to play. Cards like Bile Blight or Ultimate Price, Dark Betrayal, Hunt the Hunter. These are all pretty situational, but very powerful in the right circumstances. And they're powerful based on their efficiency. And Den Protector works very well, not with, powerful cards, like a card like Elspeth or a card like Ugin. You're not really looking at Den Protector those back, but you can get a lot of tempo and a lot of value out of using these cheap removal spells so that you can then return and use again with Den Protector in a small sort of mana constrained window. Then I have a couple of copies of Collected Company to give me sort of more instant speed kind of threats against control decks, and then just a mix of disruption and removal effects. So this is what we're going to be messing around with, and I haven't really actually put this deck through its paces outside of a few games with very early versions in playtesting. So I'm going to be interested in seeing how it performs. So anyway, let's go.